This is If Lost, Please Return to Present Mic by nomumomo. Read by Satori Reads. Summary. This is the official Present Mic Fanclub, the boy said. And we don't just let anyone join the official Present Mic Fanclub. You'll have to demonstrate your commitment to Present Mic by answering a few questions. Commitment. Shouta fingered the gold wedding ring that hung on a chain around his neck. He decided to play along. Try me. Chapter 1. Shouta hadn't given the shirt much thought. He was off duty and it was warm out, so the first t-shirt he saw when he opened the drawer seemed like the logical choice. And since he wasn't in the habit of looking in the mirror, he didn't realize what he was wearing until he stopped to kiss his husband goodbye. "Aw, babe, I didn't know you still had that shirt." Hizashi looked Shouta up and down, beaming. "Guess you really do love me." Shouta rolled his eyes and looked down at his shirt. In big red letters, it read, "If lost, please return to Present Mic." Right. He had totally forgotten about that shirt. Hizashi bought it for him years ago, before they were even a couple. Of course, at that time, Shouta didn't realize that it was one of Hizashi's many attempts to flirt with him. He just thought he was fucking with him. Shouta shrugged. "It's accurate," he said, and left to run his errands. It wasn't until a young woman with a solemn face spotted him on the street, asked him to please come with me, and proceeded to lead him down a dark alley that Shouta wondered if his choice of a shirt had been a mistake. She led him down a poorly lit stairwell. Shouta knew he probably shouldn't have gone with her, but the creepy kid had piqued his curiosity. The rusty door at the bottom of the stair opened with a turn of her key. He followed her through the door, and his eyes were immediately assaulted with yellow and black. And a familiar toothy grin, well, everywhere. The walls of the basement room were covered, floor to ceiling, with Present Mic posters. Most were in Japanese, but there were a few in English and even in other languages that Shouta couldn't identify. There were numerous framed photos of Mike with fans that must have been from the many meet and greet events that he did. Present Mic string lights, shaped like little microphones and sunglasses, ran back and forth across the ceiling. A recording of Put Your Hands Up radio played in the background, his husband's voice prattling on about something or other. It might even have been cozy, if not for the dozen life-size Present Mic cardboard cutouts arranged around the perimeter of the room that were, frankly, a bit creepy. Oh, and the 30 or so people now staring at him. The modest-sized room was packed with people that Shouta assumed were fans. It was a pretty diverse bunch, though most seemed to be teenaged, and they were all glaring at him. Before Shouta could ask what the hell was going on, the recording of Put Your Hands Up radio was cut off. The back of the crowd started to part for something pointy. Like a shark fin in choppy waters, a spike of what Shouta soon realized was blonde hair was moving through the crowd towards him. Eventually, its owner came into view, arriving at the front of the group. It was a teenage girl. She couldn't have been above 150 centimeters tall, but her clearly dyed blonde hair was gelled up into an impressive spire that gave her at least another 30 centimeters. She was wearing black leather, a familiar model of Hage headphones, and orange sunglasses. And holy shit, she had a neck tattoo that looked like a directional speaker. This must be their leader. Someone brought a chair out, and the leather-clad girl sat, leaning back and giving Shouta a look that would subdue a warlord. How cute. "You can call me President Mic," she said, confirming Shouta's assumption. "And if you want to call yourself a Present Mic fan, you're going to have to go through us." A second teen stepped forward to stand beside the girl calling herself President Mic. He had his long hair pulled back into a messy bun, and he was wearing a smart red jacket. He held a binder nearly bursting with pages. "This is the official Present Mic Fanclub," he said. "And we don't just let anyone join the official Present Mic Fanclub. You'll have to demonstrate your commitment to Present Mic by answering a few questions." Commitment. Ha! Shouta fingered the gold wedding ring that hung on the chain around his neck. He decided to play along. Try me. Chapter 2. President Mike jumped straight into it. What high school did President Mike go to? Shouta sighed. So this was going to be boring after all. Are you really going to waste my time with such basic questions? I'm asking the questions here, old man. President Mike snapped. Do you know or don't you? UA. And before you ask, that's also where he currently heads the English department. President Mike looked unimpressed. Blood type? B. Height? 185 centimeters. 210 to 231, counting the hair, depending on how recently he's cut it. There was murmuring in the crowd. The kid with the binder flipped through some pages. Checks out, President, he said eventually. President Mike held up a hand and everyone fell silent. I knew that. We'll move on to the intermediate level questions. How many years has Put Your Hands Up Radio been on the air? 7 years in its current slot, with another Shouta posted on. 4 before that on Wednesdays at 3 a.m. Before that, he did his show on public access, starting in his second year at UAU. President Mike narrowed her eyes. She took a few moments to reply. Correct about the 4 and 7 years, and the time slots. I can neither confirm nor deny that he had a show on public access before that. Shouta could certainly confirm it. He had listened to every single episode of Put Your Hands Up Radio, including the very first. Hizashi had insisted he accompany him to the radio station that first time, when they were still in high school. He remembered just how excited and nervous his then best friend was. He even had his track list and detailed commentary points written out on a sheet of notebook paper. By the time the show started, he had folded and unfolded the paper so many times it was nearly falling apart. But as soon as that on-air light came on, Hizashi was talking and queuing up tracks like he was an old pro, his notes completely unnecessary. He was in his element. Shouta remembered the pride and admiration he felt then, watching Hizashi start to make his dreams a reality. That was the night that Shouta realized that his little crush on his best friend might be something more. President Mike interrupted his reverie. When did his quirk manifest? This question. At birth, Shouta said. He didn't elaborate. Hizashi was born with his quirk, and of course he had no control over it as a baby. It was no secret that he deafened his parents and the medical staff in the room that day. What Hizashi preferred to keep private, however, was the fact that his birth parents gave him up for adoption then and there. He spent years in an unkind foster system before his moms adopted him. They were both deaf already, so they had no fear of his quirk. They were wonderful parents and gave Hizashi the best home he could ask for, but they couldn't erase his past. Thinking of his early years was still painful for Hizashi. Shouta really didn't like it when people brought it up. All that President Mike realized, however, was that he wasn't going to say anymore. Correct, but disappointingly basic, she said, looking more delighted than disappointed at Shouta's lackluster answer. She must have thought that Shouta didn't know much about President Mike's quirk. Following the scent of blood, she asked, How loud is President Mike's yell? So that's how she wanted to play it? Fine. He could be petty too. Shouta felt the teacher in him speaking when he said, That's a poorly constructed question. It's completely ambiguous. Whether you're asking what his maximum volume is, what volume he typically uses in battle, or even if you're referring to loud voice or loud out shout. I'm assuming that you don't even know about DJ shout, surround sound scream, or velvet voice. Shouta knew he wasn't being entirely fair. Hizashi hadn't used DJ shout since his high school days, and velvet voice was something he used exclusively during their alone time. But these little shits don't need to know that. President Mike just pursed her lips and glared. Answer the question. His maximal volume is 194 decibels, recorded during his quirk training at UA. He could have gone louder, but 194 is the physical limit for sound volume at sea level. He set the world record that day for the loudest sound generated from a human voice box, which he still holds, along with 11 other sound-related world records. The volume he typically uses in battle is around 130 decibels to cause discomfort, 150 to rupture eardrums and disorient, and 170 to stun. If you're asking about his volume in his work as a teacher, he's gone as high as 130 to get the attention of a rowdy class, and once went to 150 during a practical final exam, though he was far away enough from the students that their eardrums didn't quite rupture. When he MCs, he'll do 110, 140, depending on the venue size. Regardless of the environment, he has excellent volume control and never exceeds 185 outside of very controlled training conditions. He knows that if he did, he'd melt everyone's internal organs and kill them almost instantly. Shouta paused to look around the room. He was pleased to see that he had everyone's rapt attention. You should all be thankful that he chose to be a hero, an educator, and an entertainer, rather than pursuing a life of villainy. President Mike's eyebrows were scrunched in the middle of her forehead, a clearly affected expression that didn't suit her at all. Her discomfort, however, seemed genuine enough. Shouta wasn't above rubbing salt in the wound. He continued. And you only asked about volume, which shows a limited appreciation for his abilities. His range exceeds what can be heard by the human ear on both the high and low ends of the spectrum, and his control of pitch is exquisite. Not to mention his frankly ridiculous lung capacity. The crowd was now chattering with excitement, and the kid with the binder was flipping through pages frantically to try and verify everything Shouta said. President Mike didn't wait for her lackey to answer. Enough! Let's cut to the chase. If you know so much about President Mike, tell me this. Who is Kitten? Chapter 3. The fans gasped, looking at Shouta expectantly. The room was silent for a tense moment. Pass. Excuse me? Shouta scratched at his stubble. Pass. Not going to answer that one. Kitten was Hizashi's pet name for Shouta, and how he referred to him on his radio show. Their relationship was not public knowledge, so only a few close friends and family knew that Kitten was in fact the gruff underground hero, Eraserhead. To the rest of the world, Kitten was a mystery, and one that fans loved to speculate about. President Mike looked smug. So, we finally stumped you, huh? Nope. I'm just choosing not to answer that one. President Mike opened her arms, in what she must have thought was a magnanimous gesture. You can admit that you don't know. We're not villains here. We only want to share the good President Mike knowledge with the world. Ren, why don't you enlighten our new friend? Binder Boy started. The identity of Kitten is unknown, but there are many theories. We know several facts for certain. When Kitten identifies as a man, President Mike typically uses they them pronouns for Kitten, either because they prefer them or to maintain privacy. But in episode 35 of season 5 of Put Your Hands Up Radio, President Mike refers to Kitten using he him pronouns, in what we can only assume was a generous little hint to the fans who are willing to pay such close attention. True, Kitten is someone that President Mike knew at least since high school, since he stated in episode 10 of season 2, in answer to a call-in question, that he first knew he was in love with Kitten at age 16. 3. President Mike has made multiple comments about liking dark hair, and there are exactly 143 paparazzi shots of him out in public with a dark-haired person, though their face is obstructed by a scarf in all of the photos. And finally, several months back, President Mike took time off from his show, which he never does, explaining only that his kitten was injured. This aligns with a very well publicized attack and leads us to conclude that Kitten is most likely... They couldn't know, could they? The USJ attack had made it the news after all, and he himself hadn't escaped coverage completely. The hero ingenium, also known as Ida Tensei. Phew, Shouta thought. Wrong, he said. What? Looking back, Shouta wasn't sure why he said it. Maybe he was just having fun trolling these kids. Or maybe he was truly feeling territorial over his husband. Either way, the words left his lips before he could stop them. It's me. I'm Kitten. The room erupted into chaos, the club members all shouting and arguing with one another. Impossible! But why would he lie about that? He does know a lot about Mike. But look at him! He'd actually be kinda hot if he just... Quiet! Present Mike yelled, in as fair an approximation of Hizashi's shout as one could do without his quirk. She looked furious. That Present Mike would ever... The insolence! I want you out of here! Shouta shrugged. He was getting bored anyway. He turned to leave when President Mike said one last thing. Before you go, I'm going to need you to hand over the shirt. We can't have a liar like you misrepresenting Present Mike fans. What? Fuck no. No, Shouta said. A few of the burlier fans gathered at the door, blocking his exit. Hand over the shirt, old man. He sighed. He knew that he couldn't use force against these kids, even if they were a bunch of shitheads. He wished he had his capture weapon. He could probably tie up President Mike and get them all to calm down without hurting anyone or getting himself into too much trouble. Alas, no such luck. But he wasn't going to give up his shirt. Hizashi gave him that shirt. Shouta had dealt with countless villains, not to mention the assemblage of gremlins better known as Class 1A. He could handle himself. And that included knowing when to call in reinforcements. He held up a placating hand. Just let me make one call first. He picked up his phone, selected his top contact, and put the call on speaker. Hey, Kitten! Hizashi's voice was loud and clear, even through the tiny phone speaker. What's up? Whatever the opposite of Hizashi's quirk was, perhaps the deepest silence of the most remote corner of the universe, or perhaps something quieter still. That was what filled the room. Shota's face stretched into the toothy grin that he knew made people uncomfortable. He made eye contact with President Mike, and finally broke the silence. Hey Hizashi, I just wanted to tell you that I may be late for dinner. You see, I've been abducted by some teenagers claiming to be your fan club, and they don't seem to like me very much. Shouta didn't even pretend not to savor the fear that now filled President Mike's eyes. Hizashi's surprised laughter rang through the room. Oh, babe, don't fuck with them too much, okay? Shouta gave a non-committal hum. Shouta? Fine. I've got you on speaker right now if you feel the need to do damage control. Hizashi didn't miss a beat. Hey there, listeners, he said, switching to his announcer voice. I see that you've met my husband. He might not show it, but he really appreciates everything you guys do, as do I. The room was silent, the fans hanging onto Hizashi's every word. He continued. Since you're clearly the best and most dedicated fans I've got, I'd like to ask you a special favor from you, yeah? Everyone nodded vigorously. President Mike squeaked out. Yes, Mr. President Mike, sir. Anything. Awesome. Could y'all keep this little interaction just between us friends? My kitten here's like his privacy, and I even have to keep up a little mystique, ya dig? President Mike turned back to the crowd, some of the authority coming back into her shaky voice. You heard him. Any word of this leaves these walls, and you're banned for life. The fans all muttered their assent. I knew you guys were the best, Hizashi said. Shouta rolled his eyes. His husband was really laying it on thick. Are you done yet? Hizashi chuckled. It seems my kitten is getting a little cranky. How about y'all send him back over to me? I'll make sure he writes down your address, and I'll send you some exclusive signed merch. Deal? President Mike managed another. Yes, President Mike Sensei, sir. Shouta ended the call. So, do I get to keep the shirt? Silence. I'll take that as a yes. I'll be off then to return myself to President Mike. Shouta walked to the now unobstructed exit. When he reached the door, his hand paused on the handle. And don't even think about breaking your promise to President Mike about keeping this quiet, he said. If not for his sake, then for your own. He turned to give one last, wide, tooth-filled smile. Because Kitten knows where you live. And with that, he left to go home and have a nice dinner with his husband. Not many people on the forum saw the comment from the anonymous user, as it was deleted within 40 seconds of posting. Those that did see it didn't pay it much mind, It just sounded like some crazy fan making things up to get attention. There was no way that Present Mic was actually married to a limited edition merch wearing, unkempt but strangely attractive, homicidal hobo who infiltrated the official fan club and threatened to overthrow their president. No way. So this was, if lost, please return to Present Mic by Nomumomo. Read by Satori Beats. I hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.